Good evening, everybody, and welcome to DCSD Parent University. My name is Stacy. I work for the Communications Department for the Douglas County School District. And with the help of our partner, Skyridge Medical Center, we're able to bring content like this that aims to be engaging, relevant, and helpful to DCSD parents. And tonight's webinar is all about how parents can support psychological and physical safety in schools. And so we'll discuss the ways safety drills like the Standard Response Protocol or SRP are done with psychological safety in mind, methods and procedures for suicide safety and threat assessment in schools, and how parents are vital in contributing to a culture of safety and security and well-being. And joining us tonight are Dr. Stephanie Crawford-Goetz, the DCSD Director of Mental Health, and Jonny Grusing, DCSD Director of Safety and Security. And before we get going, I'm going to send out a poll, and we'd appreciate if you could just answer a couple quick questions for us. And tonight we'll have a 30-minute presentation followed by 15 minutes for live questions and answers. If you have a question during the presentation, feel free to use the Q&A function at the bottom of your Zoom window, and we'll get right to it. Now I'd like to hand it off to Dr. Crawford-Goetz, and I hope you all enjoy.
Thank you, Stacy. And I'm not sure how our poll is going. Do you have poll results yet that we could look at as we're getting started?
I do. It looks like. Are you familiar with the safety drills that your students complete throughout the year? Somewhat. That's our biggest answer at 57%. And are you familiar with the psychological safety procedures your student could experience if they have a safety concern? And the largest was not at all at 43%.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing that. And thank you everyone for coming tonight. It's really exciting to get to talk to you about how we can collaborate together to make sure everyone feels safe and is available for their learning in the schools, and what you can do as parents to be helpful to your own students. I will get started with sharing my screen here.
Dr. Crawford, I think you may be on mute. Would you mind starting over again?
Yes, it's something odd. You can hear me now, right?
Yes.
Okay, let me share my screen. It seems maybe that went to mute when I shared my screen.
Yes, it looks like it did. You should be able to unmute yourself. Sorry about this, folks. Thanks for bearing with us. It's the wonders of Zoom, right?
Stacy, whenever I'm going to sharing now, unlike when we practice, it will not allow me to unmute. Are you able to unmute me if I go to the?
Let me give that a shot.
Okay.
We might be able to hear you. I'm seeing that you're unmuted. Again, sorry about this, folks.
Let's
Dr.
try
Crawford,
one more time.
Okay.
Where I share and then you try to unmute me.
Okay.
Stacy, that is not working. So
Okay,
do you mind if I give you my presentation and you can
please,
share it for me?
please do.
Okay. Thank you everyone for bearing with us.
Mhm,
Certainly didn't happen in the practice run, of course.
of course.
All right, so I just sent that over to you. And as
Okay.
we're getting up, what I was saying is, again, we're just so excited to have you here. We want to talk to you about both psychological and physical safety. And we take all concerns very seriously. Our goal is to make sure that everyone feels safe and secure in our schools. And we really have a belief that all of our students can be supported and guided, and any concerns that they may have, we can address them together with you as their parents.
All right, I've got this going.
All right, thank you.
You are welcome.
And as part of this work together, we really feel all the stakeholders, your students, teachers, their educational assistants, bus drivers, nutrition services, everyone working with students can collaborate together to do what is best for students' safety. And you as parents are the #1 experts on your children. And you're also the most important teammates that we could have when we're trying to make sure we're doing great interventions for your students. So if we go on, continuing on to our next slide, we have several partners in our community that we work beside. And we've worked very hard at forming relationships with these agencies so that in times of need, we are able to support one another. We participate on boards with them and committees so that we can continue to foster our work together and build those relationships. And when they have trainings, they always reach out to offer them to us. And when we have trainings, we reach out to offer them those as well. So some of these groups are just wonderful, and many of us are unified under the Douglas County Mental Health Initiative. This is unique in our county. This was established so that we could get all of our partners coming together to work together for our community's mental health, and youth mental health is a big part of this. So some of these professionals include our hospitals, our mental health agencies, crisis centers, law enforcement, and we're really excited about bringing about community response teams into our community and a youth community response team so that if someone has a safety concern, there's trained professional with a trained police officer that can go out on a call and help that individual versus it being a bigger issue where they might have to go into an emergency room. If that's not necessary, we can save a lot of time and energy with helping the person in the environment that they're at. So whether that be at home or in their schools. And as we continue on to the next slide, when we're doing safety assessments in the schools, whether that be a suicide risk assessment or a threat assessment, our emphasis is on developing interventions for the student that was referred. We want to create and we want to maintain a safe environment. And we really want to build relationships with that student, with you as their parents and guardians, and with the staff. We want to wrap around that student because the whole goal of our safety assessments is to identify a need and then support those needs and help that student be very, very safe and secure and successful in their school environment. All right, if we continue, we have a very comprehensive set of procedures for our schools for student safety. And one way that we do this is that we have annual staff trainings on warning signs for potential harm that the student may display for themselves or others. And we also have trainings for staff that do safety assessments. As part of this, and I'll probably repeat this, parents and guardians, you're always notified and you're always partnered with when we're doing these assessments. And our referral procedures are there to really secure any additional community services for our at-risk students if those are also needed. Our suicide safety procedures are based on the work of the American Psychological Association, as well as the National Association of School Psychologists, the American Association of Suicidology, and the work of Dr. Poland, who has done just a lot of research and support across the nation. Our threat assessment procedures are based on recommendations from the Federal Bureau of Investigation and from the United States Secret Service's Safe Schools and the Safe Schools Colorado School Safety Resource Center. So we've put a lot of effort and time into making sure we have robust procedures that are backed by research and guidance from our top agencies. As part of that, we have a training called Keeping Students Safe. This is a training that anybody who works in Douglas County will receive. It's brief, and it tells our staff what to look for when a student might be at risk, that you should always do a warm handoff to a mental health professional or a school administrator to make sure that student is safe and they can get their next steps for safety assessments and support. And then for our mental health providers, as I said, they are trained on a regular basis on doing these robust safety procedures and assessments for our students. The procedures here you'll see, if you have a student who might be referred for a concern, the first step is that they're referred, and they're usually seen by a school counselor, social worker, or school psychologist who are trained in our procedures and who also have training in graduate school to do these assessments. So for a suicide risk assessment, that would be that trained professional. If there is a threat assessment, a student were to make a threat toward others, there's a whole team of trained professionals in our schools that would do that assessment together. And the reason that we do this is so that we can find out what are risks that the student is displaying and what are the protective factors that they have in their life. And together we work with you as parents and guardians to come up with a safety plan that we will follow at school and that you can follow at home to make sure we're monitoring the student, giving them skills they need, and really helping them restore if they need to with anyone that they may have made afraid, or if it's for their harm to themselves, we're making sure that they have other options besides thinking about suicide. And then we don't stop there. We want to progress monitor the student, and we want to work with you as parents to see how it's going, and we want to see how long do we need to have a formal safety plan in place and make sure we're always checking in with you and your student. So if we go on, one big aspect of this, if we have a student who has needed to go be seen at a hospital, or they've left school for a little bit of time to get treatment from a private professional, we have what we call a reentry meeting or a parent guardian meeting with you and your student, if they can participate. Again, this is our opportunity to collaborate with you, the experts on your child, and what will work for them. We want to get as much information from you about how it's going at home and what you see is working. And of course, if you're seeing an outside professional, we'd love their opinion as well. And we get your perspective so that we can develop that really robust, strong safety plan to make sure they're doing well and they continue to do well. Now, on the next slide, this is very important for you to know. We always make parent contact the same day as soon as possible about what is happening with your student. So we secure your student's safety and we contact you as soon as we can. This is important that we also take care to let you know that your student is safe, and we need to collaborate with you. We never want you to worry. We're always there to be keeping our eyes on your students, supporting them when they need, but we need you and we need your partnership in order to be able to do that well. So that is in general how we do psychological safety assessment procedures. I'm now going to turn it over to Jonny, who will talk about physical safety, and then we can't wait to answer your questions as we get toward the end of this.
Good. Well, thank you, Stephanie. Stacy, I did email you my presentation just in case my screen sharing doesn't work as well. I'll give it a shot though. Before I start though, I just wanted to introduce myself briefly. My name's Jonny Grusing. I never grew out of my kindergarten name of Johnny, so I apologize. I was with the FBI for 25 years prior to coming on. And out of my last 23 years in the FBI, I worked violent crime. So I got the job, I think, for a couple reasons. Maybe number one is that I worked with the profiling unit, and the people interviewing me were afraid I was profiling them and learning their deep, dark secrets, but I was not. I think the better reason why I got the job is that I focus on prevention. Since September 11th, the FBI as an organization has had to focus on prevention instead of response to mass attacks, and that includes terroristic events and school shootings, church shootings, etc. So what Dr. Crawford was talking about as far as the research that she and her team bases on it, a lot of that is the law enforcement response to these incidents. That being said, we made a couple changes in safety, and I saw your poll results that a lot of you are somewhat familiar, some of you not at all, and that's much like when my teenagers went through the school program here. I was real concerned about their security, and I would ask them, how'd your lockdown drill go? And they said, fine. I was like, well, what'd you do? Well, nothing. So I feel your pain as far as not knowing much about it. So let me try to share my screen, and I will see if this can play. So the question is, can you still hear me?
Yes,
We
we
sure
can still hear
can.
you.
Awesome. So what I've been doing for the last 2 months with my safety and security team is we wake up early, we get to schools before school starts, and we get together with the principals and all the teachers and your educational assistants, and we go through our safety protocol, and we do live training with them, most likely later that day. This used to be an hour training. It's also online, so I've abbreviated the training just to focus on what we have that's new and what they need to know for this year. Half of my training, though, is on the prevention piece, and a lot of that tries to intersect with what Dr. Crawford's doing with her team. A good friend of mine, when I was retiring from the FBI at my retirement, said that, and it's what Dr. Crawford and her team does, the prevention piece is like us as parents, us as teachers, us as security, being on offense instead of defense. Offense is what Stephanie was talking about, and that is seeing when your child, the student, is on possibly a route of self-harm or harm, and trying to prevent that singular student from doing harm to his or herself. That could eventually prevent an attack. I mean, that's a very 1 in a million thing that student would actually do something that egregious, but the pathway that Dr. Crawford's going, that I'm going, is the same. Is let's look at each student individually when they're struggling, and we learn about that from many ways. We learn about it from students telling other students, from our Safe to Tell program, from teachers reporting it, and even from outside parties reporting it. So we're still working on this, so no student slips through the cracks, but we're trying to work in an integrated fashion with Dr. Crawford and her team. What I learned, though, about prevention is it's messy. This is, a little x-ray of you and your body, and for us as humans, we can't predict when something's going to go wrong with our body, and if you can, you're unique. However, we can try to eat a good diet, exercise, get your rest, and prevent something from going wrong. And that is what we're doing in security. That's what our mental health team's doing as well. We're trying to prevent something from happening, so we're not in the position of actually having to do a lockdown. Something that I brought over from working a lot of criminal activity and even the mass attacks in the FBI that I've gone through the teachers and administrators with is U.S. Secret Service's pathway to violence that they developed over 100 years. And it's very appropriate. I spend about 3 to 5 minutes with teachers on this in our training, because it's very important for them, since there are eyes and ears out there, and our security team, to recognize what a grievance is, that it's very unique to each student, and that when that student has an idea of maybe to go down a pathway of violence to his or herself, that's the time when we can maybe intersect that. I give an example of, I live near Mountain Vista High School, and for 25 years I commuted to the FBI office in downtown. I drove, 470 to 25 to 225 to 70 every day. And that, for me, became my personal pathway of violence. And we all actually go through these things. The grievance for me would be getting stuck in traffic and somebody honking at me, or not even stuck, and somebody's really aggravating me as a driver. So I would have an unhealthy idea of what should happen to that other driver. I think we all do on the highways. But then instead of going actually towards an unhealthy path, I would have what I called stabilizers, what Dr. Crawford calls protective factors, these things that I'm married, I have a good family, I have freedom, those things that we have as adults that sometimes kids don't have, these stabilizers, and I go back around and handle the grievance differently, and I just let the guy go. For our teenagers, anybody under age 18, the FBI found that in that ideation phase, they leak out both through social media and to their friends over 90% of the time when they're struggling with something in their life. And again, the grievance can look like many different things. So we as Douglas County are trying to come in at that idea phase, and we do get a lot of ideas coming our ways every day and help that student get back on a healthy pathway of using stabilizers to deal with this. So my wife has been a middle school teacher as long as we've been married, and she's also in the district here. She will tell me about the kids in her class that are not coping well, the ones that have trouble communicating. And these aren't necessarily the violent kids. As a matter of fact, a lot of times they're not. They're the kids that just are socially not interacting well with the other kids. And while my wife was telling me about those, and I've done a lot of studies with the FBI on pre-attack behavior, we're finding that it's these kids that we need to focus on, not only to possibly prevent an attack, which is the 1 in a million thing, but also to integrate these kids back into the fold as best we can. So with my security team, and teachers in Douglas County are already doing this, trying not to let these kids slip through the cracks, but we're trying to say hello to them every day, even if they're trying to skirt around our security kiosk, those sorts of things. So finally, this is the standard response protocol. So if you see on the bottom right, it's from the I Love You Guys Foundation, which I've talked with a couple of former law enforcement guys I know that are in, whether Denver Public Schools, Jefferson County, Cherry Creek, and we are all using this standard response protocol. So the 5 actions, I'm not going to go through them ad nauseum at all. I'm going to tell you what's new. What's new this year is hold. For hold, that is something that is able to be used by an administrative staff in case you have something very minor that happens, like a chemical spill or something in the school, to where basically a teacher just needs to hold that area, get it cleaned up, and then move on. Most likely our dispatch will not be notified on a hold unless it's going to become something bigger, which would be a secure or a lockdown or possibly an evacuate. So hold is there in case they need it, basically, just to keep kids where they are. Secure is when the danger is outside. Most oftentimes that is going to be police activity, or in Douglas County, it's a coyote. And so what the staff will do is just bring the kids inside, lock the doors, but they go about their daily activities as normal. Your kids might be texting you with this saying we're in a lockdown. If they're going about classroom business as normal, it's just as secure. And that, again, that just means they're keeping the doors locked from the outside, which your doors are locked anyway, but it's just an extra precaution. We're not letting people in until this secure is lifted. Lockdown is what we practice in the schools, and that's what we've been, myself and my team have been doing since the beginning of school. We work with the local police department or sheriff's office, Douglas County Sheriff or Castle Rock, Parker or Lone Tree. And we'll show up, we'll talk with the staff again in the morning, we'll brief with them. And what we like to do is make this go as quickly as possible and as unobtrusively as we can, go through what a lockdown might look like. For a lockdown, the threat is actually inside the building. So the alarm will go off, someone inside the office will push an alarm, the doors will close and lock, the teachers will close and lock their doors, and they'll turn off their lights. And then they, with their children or their students, will go into a corner of the room and they'll be seated and they just remain quiet. So we as law enforcement then go door to door and we go with a staff member. We'll see if we can hear anything inside, and then we'll just go, we'll enter with the key. We'll tell the kids, hey, you guys are doing great. 99 times out of 100, they are, because they've been through this stuff before. And we say, we're just going to be done in a few minutes. Please stay seated and quiet. And, you know, I did a couple of charter schools today. Even the teachers for the kindergartners and first graders are giving them lollipops. So they're nice and quiet and get extra bonus points for doing those sorts of things. But we just go room to room to make sure that the students and the teachers are quiet and that we can't see them in through their windows. So again, we try to keep it brief, try to keep it very positive. And we also, if the staff knows that a student's going to have a traumatic reaction to that, that's why we have the briefing in the morning, and parents are encouraged to take them out of the lockdown. So that's not our intent at all, is to traumatize a student through one of these things. The evacuate is when the problem is like a chemical or smoke where you need to get out of the building and the schools have a directed route to go. That's called a fire drill. And then the last one is, let me move my thing over so make sure you guys are seeing it as well as I am. It's the shelter. And shelter is, I'm sure you parents have already had to deal with that this year, because the storms tend to roll through at about 3 o'clock pickup time. And that's when they have to shelter in place, whether it's lightning or it's most likely a weather event, until that event passes. And please give us a little bit of grace in that, because 30 schools are normally having to do that at once. And our dispatch room is trying to juggle a lot of things as we're figuring out what those evacuates and when they can. We don't make the call at dispatch. That individual principal has to make the call of when it's safe to let these kids go. So that is what I've been doing, and I hope that gives you a little bit of insight, at least, into what your kid, your student has been hearing and seeing and experiencing as we go through these drills.
Thank you very much for sharing, Johnny. I'd like to build off of that on the standard response protocol. But before I do, this is a great opportunity for, if you have any questions, to pop them in that Q&A down at the bottom of the Zoom window. So both Johnny and Stephanie can answer your direct questions. So I do want to remind everyone that DCSD is testing its emergency notification system tomorrow. That's Thursday, October 28th. It's only a test. There's no action required. You will receive a phone call, an email, a text message, depending on your emergency contact information. And this exercise is just part of our ongoing effort to provide our families and staff with timely and accurate information during emergency situations. We'll make it super clear that it's a test and that there's and that really no action is needed on your part for that test. So we do have a question. We've got one from Amber. How often are the drills supposed to happen throughout the year?
So again, I'm brand new, Amber, but from what I know, we're supposed to do them twice a year. We do them once in the fall, once in the spring, and that is for the lockdown drills. As far as the evacuates, those are more common, but those, we are not present for all of those. Those are, that was formerly called the fire drill, but they do those. There's and I can't remember right offhand, but it's much more than once a semester. I think once a semester is the minimum, but some schools like to practice those quite a bit more. But from the I Love You Guys training, we do those twice a year. So your schools are already starting to sign up for the spring semester.
Does anyone else have a question? I'm seeing my ABCs in my head to give us enough time here. Okay, well, if we don't have any questions at this time, oh, no, never mind. Okay, this is from Erica. Regarding the pathway to violence segment, Johnny mentioned notification from outside parties. What does that refer to? Johnny, would you mind unmuting yourself, please?
I was trying to get my cursor over there to beat you to it, but yeah, I saw myself talking. That just means sometimes we even get notification outside of the school district if one friend's concerned about another one. We had that last week, so it doesn't necessarily have to come from Douglas County School District. It can be a friend or relative outside the district that's concerned about someone inside our district. And a lot of those do come through Safe to Tell. If you guys don't know about that, it's an excellent mechanism for kids and even adults to remain anonymous and communicate with a third party and give us the information we need to start caring for that student. Good question.
And Erica was looking for clarification. Would it be possible that the school is notified by therapists?
Well, I can talk a little bit about that. When we have a student referred for a concern, that is typically the student might refer themselves. A friend, as Johnny said, might be worried about their friend and refer them for support, or a parent or a teacher might refer them. As far as a private therapist, they would do more of their own work as far as mitigating any safety concerns and working with you as a parent. And then together, the two of you could, collaborate with the school and partner with us to say, we have a safety plan in place and we'd really like you to follow a similar one at school, and we can all partner around the child.
All right, and this next one has two parts to it. First, what is your biggest concern with physical and psychological safety in our schools? And two, what is being done to address your concern?
So I'll answer the physical part. For this program, we have a lot of bond and grant money that has been spent and is still being spent. And a lot of that has been spent to upgrade the camera systems. I'm now even looking to do a project on what's called bollards, which those are the things in front, metal things that can keep a vehicle from sliding into a building. There's all sorts of different projects that we're working on at once, radio communications, those sorts. So all those address the physical issue. And I don't have a primary physical concern right now that we are not addressing. We as the security department, get a lot of vendors that hit us up with, I'll call them the gee whiz things, which are, 3D, mapping of your schools and all this stuff that we don't need for now. But I'm still learning. But at this point, I think we're in a pretty good spot of keeping our kids safe with what Douglas County's learned, not only from prior incidents, but we have a safety and security committee that meets once a month. And those also have some outside parents, agencies, law enforcement that we just keep on turning over what is the best way to keep the kids safe physically.
And I can talk about the psychological safety part of this. Together we are all working to keep our students and our community safe, and we're really appreciative of that. I think what we can continue to work on together is really reducing stigma and anxiety with people being aware that there might be a concern and making sure that we are putting those safety plans in place and supporting our students, giving them skills and interventions and monitoring to make sure that they're doing well. And so our concern is always that we don't want to miss any students who might be of need. And that's why it's so nice and so important that we have caring people that will make referrals directly to our school mental health professionals, and that we have Safe to Tell. And so I want you all to know, if you have a safety concern that starts at home and you go to a crisis walk-in center, or you were to go to an emergency department or a mental health agency and have that plan, that we don't need to know all of your personal information, but we need to know enough that there's a concern and that we can be a part of that safety planning and we can help you to support your child. So that is what we're really hoping for, is to really increase our communication and our partnership.
Very well said. Any other questions out there? All right, well, just before. All right, so following on to what Stephanie just said, in the event of a concern, who do we direct our comments and questions to, such as a school counselor or anybody else in the school system?
Yeah, absolutely. If you have a concern for your own child or another, please reach out to the school counselor. Is an excellent resource. If you know the school psychologist or school social worker, you could reach out to them. And of course, reaching out to your principal or your assistant principal. These are all people who are trained on our more intensive safety trainings and know how to connect your student to the right supports at school, can get you together with the right group of people so that we can all team together for that student of concern. So any of those people would be great to reach out to.
Well, so we can wrap up on time. Stephanie, Johnny, I'd love to hear final thoughts from you guys. Anything else you'd like to share?
Yeah, I just want to thank you all. And if you ever have any questions, please feel free to reach out to myself. I am always happy to talk with you and steer you in the right direction if you're looking for resources. And I know that we've talked about very specific needs tonight around safety, but many people always want to know and want to be proactive, which I appreciate. In general, what are some of the warning signs that your child might be having a mental health issue that they could get some extra support? And a few of those would be, persistent feelings of sadness or hopelessness, maybe withdrawing from their friends or hobbies, activities that they used to do, changes in their behavior. Maybe they have a lot more energy than they used to, or maybe they have a lot less. Suddenly maybe having outbursts and irritability. A lot of times mental health in children looks like irritability and frustration, where in adults it might look more like you are tired or depressed. So to be aware of any drastic changes in your child's mood or behavior or anything with their personality. And then also health concerns. Are they sleeping well? Are they eating well? Those kinds of things are really important. And how are they doing at school? Are they able to complete their work? Can they concentrate well? Have they had any changes at school as well? So those are just a few things to really think about when you're being proactive and you think, should I reach out to my school counselor to talk about in general if there are some short-term supports and skills they might need to learn or some resources they could provide? And please do that right away when you're worried. That's never a problem. And we want to really work with you to intervene as early as possible.
And Stephanie, we did just have a question pop up. Is this the same process for, say, a bullying situation?
Yeah, absolutely. If you are having a concern about bullying, please reach out to your school principal or your school assistant principal or counselor and make them aware of your concerns and give them all the information so that they can look into that and partner with you. Because again, regardless of what the concern is, we want your children and all our staff to feel safe and secure so that they can do what is our ultimate goal, which is learn and be successful.
Yeah, very well said, Stephanie. So yeah, I guess I would summarize with, I've been to probably 90 of the 93, 98 schools we have, and coming in with a fresh set of eyes. I've seen your principals, your staff, your EA workers, your everybody, you know, and the level of care and concern and even teachability to where when we as a team come in and say, well, you might consider covering that window, say, and they are just all over it. So the other thing that I speak with them about is safety and security. And this was told well to me from a friend of mine who works in another district. Our job is to let learning happen. And we do not want these kids to be in fear of an attack and whatever else. And that's why we try to come very calmly and quietly and get these drills done, because I want your kid to have a full education and to have fun being in school and not even have to worry about security. So my hope is that they don't even know we're there, you know, and but I do see happy kids and I don't see them being real upset while they're doing these drills. The teachers are very attuned to that. And, you know, as a team, we're just doing all we can to, especially me, learning while I'm new and make this the very best learning environment we can. And just like Dr. Crawford said, if you have any thoughts, please feel free to reach out to me. You know, just go to our website, Safety and Security, and my email's on there as well. So we appreciate your time today.
Absolutely. Thank you for everybody who joined us. And I can make sure to include both Jonny and Stephanie's emails on the follow-up email tomorrow, in which you will receive a recording, a link to a recording of this webinar, so you can refer back to it, share with whoever it needs to be shared with. And to kind of like further our partnership, you could say, we sure would appreciate your feedback. And hold on one moment while I get this up. There we go. Yep. So we're always looking to make this program, Parent University, even more robust and helpful. We want to make sure that we are meeting your needs and we're addressing the topics that are interesting to you and that you would like more support on. So I ask that you please head over to bit.ly Parent Safety Feedback to fill out a brief Google form. You can also scan that QR code on the screen too, if that's easier. In exchange, like if you would like, you can opt in to receive a free mini first aid kit from our partner, Skyridge Medical Center. Just follow the form, you'll get they'll get your information and they can send it right to your front door. And our next Parent University webinar, and the last one of the semester, will be on the importance of reading aloud to and with your child. It'll be on Wednesday, November 17th. And if you have a young learner who's working through reading like this, you'll walk away with some great tips and great strategies to help them with that. And you can find more information about that, including the registration link at dcsdk12.org/parentuniversity. So I want to thank everybody for joining us. Jonny, Stephanie, thank you once again. It's always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you. We'll see you guys later.
Yeah, I hope you all have a wonderful evening and we'll see you next time.